I want to go to another topic that I've written about. I know you have. You've certainly spoken about it. And that is dating back. And again, sorry, viewers, for bringing up this very painful pressure point. But the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh and the angst everyone felt and still does, the gift that keeps on giving, as they say, is why the allegations, numerous and seemingly credible, against Kavanaugh from women and others, by the way, and even men, were some of them backed that up, were not only disqualifying, but were not entirely fleshed out in the FBI reinvestigation. And I want to just to set the stage here, because again, I'm that administrative FBI nerd. The FBI, in everything else the FBI does, folks, the client is the American people. They work for the American people. This one area, background investigations and reinvestigations, is the exception to the rule. And that's because the White House is the client. The White House is making the request. And this is particularly true, folks, when there's what's called a supplemental or a reinvestigation. That means that the nominee, as is often the case and was the case with Kavanaugh, has already served the government. He's already been through a full background investigation. So now they just need to update it. And believe it or not, the White House gets to dictate the constraints and parameters of that update or supplemental. Are we on the same sheet of music so far, Senator?
Yep, we sure are. The trail of this is that Brett Kavanaugh went through his original background investigation, and that concluded. And then Dr. Blasey Ford made her very credible accusations, echoed by other women with similar credible accusations dating to his youth, high school and college years, and his engagement in inappropriate sexual, activity of various kinds. And so they had to reinvestigate, they had to go back and open that investigation. And what Chris Wray assured everyone is, don't worry, we're going to do this by the book. We're going to follow all the regulations and rules, and you can be confident in the outcome of the FBI's investigation. What he omitted, what he failed to tell the public, is that with respect to a supplemental background investigation, there is no book. There are no rules. There are no regulations. There's quite a lot of procedure. The FBI very well. The FBI lives by procedure. There's a lot of procedure around an original background investigation. But once it's a supplemental, it's open season, and they respond only to the White House. And one of the results here was that they set up a fake tip line. They announced that there was a tip line for tips to come in about further Kavanaugh misbehavior or corroboration of Kavanaugh misbehavior, and they investigated 0 of those tips, not one. If it came in and related to Kavanaugh, they basically put it in a bucket and shipped that bucket over to the White House counsel's office, where the president's political folks out defending the Kavanaugh nomination made the decision about what to do with those tips. Right. And of course, what they decided to do with those tips was to dump them, shred them, ignore them, whatever.
It's the proverbial fox guarding the hen house when it comes to these reinvestigations. And I know we have limited time, but I want to get your response to this kind of suggestion. Clearly, things need to change with regard to reinvestigations and who dictates them and who doesn't and who should. But what would be wrong with getting the Senate, who ultimately the Senate committee that's going to govern that nomination and confirmation process, right? And get them, their chair and minority, co-chair or leader, to get a process and say, look, these are the questions we want answered in this reinvestigation, and somehow take that away from the White House. Am I naive that would ever happen?
No, I think that could happen. And because the FBI already has very robust procedures around the original background investigation and what it's required to look at and how far you're required to go. You don't just abandon a concern halfway investigated, and you got to run it down until you really know it or the person withdraws. So there's this whole panoply of procedure, protocol, regulation, standard practice at the FBI. There's no reason that couldn't be extended to a supplemental background investigation. I think it does the FBI a lot of harm.
Right.
When you have an FBI director tell the American people, don't worry, we've got this. You can count on us. We've got a tip line, and we're going to follow all of our customary rules and procedures. And then you find out after the fact that the tip line was a fake because there were no customary rules and procedures to follow. So all they did was dump the tips over at the White House counsel office, and none were ever investigated, not one.
Well, Senator, sign me up for any counseling or consulting that needs to get done on how to fix FBI reinvestigations. I've conducted them as a young street agent. I've supervised them as a leader. I know how to get this fixed. I don't know how to execute it on the Hill, but I'm there for you. Hey, thank you for all the work you do. You're doing God's work. Keep asking the hard questions, presenting the evidence, and we'll let you go. But we're
thank you, Frank, also, and thank you for your years of service to the FBI, which is an organization I've been extremely proud to work with in my U.S. attorney days and in my attorney general days.
Yeah, and rest in peace, Bob Mueller, my former boss. Take care, and God's graces. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, folks, that was Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, and boy, could we go a whole hour if we had it with the good senator. Yeah, I hope you could see my passion with regard to the FBI background investigations and reinvestigations. If there's one area of disagreement, and it's slight, we might have between myself and the senator, is this. Chris Wray has responded to the allegation that the tip line that was set up was somehow a ruse or fake by essentially saying, and I'm paraphrasing the director's response, was, look, we needed a repository. We knew the public needed to get involved. This is kind of a weird thing for a reinvestigation, soliciting the public's input. But they do it all the time on crimes, right? They're doing it right now on the Nancy Guthrie case. So they go, well, what part of the FBI does that? Solicit public calls. Well, it's that crime tip line, right? So he said, let's do it that way. They collected all of them. What we then did was, and again, this is the practice and protocol that's in writing at the Bureau. He took all of that and handed it to the White House. So yes, it is the fox guarding the hen house, but that is the protocol. And, the FBI, if nothing else, is certainly a bunch of rule followers, and that's what we pay them to do. But this needs to change. The White House can't constrain the reinvestigation. And as I said, I think it needs to go back to the Senate and the committee in a bipartisan fashion where they go, we want these questions answered. Okay. Now, I'm a cynic. I'm a professional cynic. Will the White House ever give up that power? I don't care what party is in control in the White House, but think about this. Whether it's a Democrat president or a Republican, would they say, right? Because presidents throughout history have had this opportunity. I've researched this from both parties to say, you know what, this is weird. When I nominate somebody, I shouldn't get to dictate the reinvestigation that happens with a nominee. And think about it. Lots of nominees have already served and had full investigations. Unless, of course, you're talking about the Trump administration where no one seems to have any experience, but I digress. So would any president of any party say, I'm willing to entirely give up that first look at investigative results of my nominee? I'll give that up to the politicians in the Senate. I don't think they will. And that's why we still don't see changes to how the FBI does reinvestigations. But look, if you think that's an issue, we're far worse than that right now, my friends. We're in a place now where they bypassed the background process. We've had multiple media platforms reporting that they just did away with polygraphs and with backgrounds for some people. Do you think Tulsi Gabbard would pass a background investigation for a top secret clearance? No. So if you think Kavanaugh was bad, at least they did an investigation of sorts. We've got a situation now where none are happening in some cases.